Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me say, obviously, that I'm not Milena. Milena had an emergency. She had to stay at home. But this is part of a PhD that she's been working on to try to understand whether we can use certain markers to monitor people with chronic heart failure. We know that chronic heart failure is actually a potentially a really big problem in the sense that we get people quite late in the level of severity, that people that have the diagnosis of chronic heart failure have a mortality rate similar to lung cancer. Which means that if we can somehow identify what level of severity they have, we might be able to target their treatment a little bit better. We know they are older to the general population, that they have several different comorbidities and therefore also receive different types of treatments. And in particular, we know that readmission to hospital is much higher. That's a big problem, and also we spend a lot of money on them. So what we did was pretty much what Milena did, really, is to look at CPRD data, identify a cohort of individuals that have chronic heart failure and also have a biomarker that's been promoted as potentially being a good marker to identify how severe the heart failure happens to be, called B-type natriuretic peptide. In fact, there's two different types of them. I'll mention that in a minute. Using CPRD, which is a clinical practice research data link, from 2005 to around 2012. The way we identify individuals was after the point of diagnosis of chronic heart failure, the moment they have the first B-type natriuretic peptide measured, that identifies them to start in the cohort, and then whenever the cohort, either they die or finish, following them up in 2012, that'll be the end of it. There were some exclusion criteria, people with COPD, renal failure or cancer, and there were also no restrictions in terms of the follow-up. These are the basic characteristics of the cohort, and as you can identify, there was there were considerable differences in terms of the age, also in terms of the body mass index, with those individuals that were actually underweight or normal weight being more likely to die early. Similar things with serum creatinine, and as you would expect, also whether the type of B-type natriuretic peptide was higher was also a significant marker. So in terms of the question that we're trying to answer, yes, BNP is actually a good biomarker in terms of identifying a prognostic marker for saying who's going to die. You can see both the unadjusted and the adjusted measures have identified that, that this is a really good marker. What does that imply? Well, part of the thing that Milena wants to do, and as part of her PhD, is to monitor individuals over time. And in order to do that, we need to find a relevant biomarker that would give us a good indicator of what's happening and whether we can actually modify treatment in order to target them better. So what this is showing us is that B-type natriuretic peptide, both either the BNP or the NT-proBNP, how are we doing? It's a good marker, and we can do it that way. Thank you very much.
That was great. Questions?
So I just want to fully understand that this is the hazard ratio according to the level of BNP.
Yes, correct. So
it's a continuous.
Correct. It's just in the log measure because it increases almost an exponential.
Right.
Yep.
Would that even if it's sort of associated independently, how strong are you really asking a question about its predictive utility at an individual patient level?
Yes. So part of the issue is that if there's some medications that can be used to reduce the level of BNP for individuals, and if we can identify that BNP is strongly associated, the next step would be whether the treatment that we can give to these individuals will actually lower the BNP and therefore increase the chances of survival.
Did you have any problems with finding the BNP within the data set? So how many patients with heart failure in total actually had a BNP level recorded?
That is a limitation of CPRD. We know there's a local variability in terms of which practices use BNP. Within even the UK, obviously within CPRD, there's some regions that tend to use BNP more often than others. So, but that we think that doesn't necessarily impact too much on the association with it in terms of what that impacts on the prognosticability of the measure itself. But yes, certainly we have a skewed population compared to all the population that have chronic heart failure.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much.